Welcome everyone back to InfoSec Live, where we give you, our audience, the chance to learn from and interact with the people on the front line in the cybersecurity industry. Today, I'm joined by Jessica du Plooy of CYBER1 Solutions, where we're going to be focusing on the upcoming Digital Operational Resilience Act, or Dora for short and for ease of my vocabulary, and the deadline of that of January 2025, and what that means for any financial services regulated businesses in Europe and beyond. So we're going to be touching on what Dora is, who it applies to, why it's applicable, why it's been implemented. And as we all know, or we may not know, and you're going to find out today, security awareness is an important element of Dora. So we're going to look at why it's so important to have security awareness in your organization. And of course, once we've been all through all of these topics, we're going to talk a little bit about how CYBER1 Solutions can offer you support and how they're helping their existing clients. But before we get into the show, my name's Simon Linstead. I'm the founder of the InfoSec Live community, your host for this show today. And by sharing stories and best practices over the last couple of years, it's led to over 250,000 views of our content here on YouTube by you, our amazing subscribers. So a massive thank you for your support. If you're watching this live, please do like and subscribe. We want to make these events as interactive as possible. If you've got any questions, please do make sure you drop them in the chat. And if we can, we'll answer them throughout the show today. And if you're watching on the replay, of course, we would love to hear your comments as well. Okay, so time for the show. Let's bring Jessica on. Let's find out a little bit more about Dora. Let's move you across to the left. There we go.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Hi, Thank you.
No, my pleasure. Great to have you on. We've met in person, actually, for those that are watching. We met at a dinner in London. I think it was last year or earlier this year. It's gone so quickly.
Early this year, yeah.
Was it this year?
Yeah, I think
Time
I was
flies.
just fresh off the boat.
You were. You just came over, hadn't you, to start work? So how long have you been with CYBER1 now?
So I started off with CYBER1 back in South Africa. So it's almost 2 years now.
Okay. And I take it you're enjoying it before we move on?
Yes, no, love it. Really
Excellent.
Great company.
So people love to know a little bit about our guests before we start talking about the topic. So would you mind just telling our audience a little bit about your background and what your role is at CYBER1 and how you help your clients, please?
Yes, of course. So my background started in psychology. I did my honors in psychology back in South Africa. After graduating, I moved into the cyberspace, focusing mostly then on sales. I then felt, I wanted to use my psychology background a bit more, see how I could help. I noticed that within the industry, there was a gap where I could use it, being security awareness. That's when I moved over to CYBER1 Solutions in their South Africa office as a security awareness consultant. So my role there was creating and implementing security awareness plans for various organizations, from your bigger, larger customers to our smaller customers. Security awareness is applicable for everyone. So that was my role. I brought in my psychology background by analyzing the data, your response rate, your click rates, the engagement you got from training, and just making recommendations to my clients on, maybe decrease the training to 2-minute training to get the engagement up and the retention. Or otherwise, if we found gaps, 10 minutes training, just bringing in that element of human behavior into the security awareness. And we found that to be really, really helpful. And also, help the staff just understand security awareness a bit more. I then moved over to the UK. I have a sales role here in the EMEA team, as well as heading up security awareness for EMEA.
Amazing. I love what you've said about security awareness. So for me, only being in the industry for 3 years, had lots of vendors on the show, and it's always talking about different tools and bells and whistles that company can buy and plug in.
Yeah.
But when you actually look at the real issues that we're facing in the industry, it's education that I think should be at the forefront of it. And it's really interesting that you say that you've added the human element to this awareness training, because for me, personal opinion, that's the bit that's missing. It's too easy for people to send an email once a month for someone to complete a multiple choice exam or go through some videos. People don't pay attention to it. I think you need to have people involved in that.
Yeah, you do. You need to have, someone who's looking at how your staff are engaging with the training, and not just, at the beginning of the year, every month, say, I'm going to set out this training, this fish, this fish. You also need to have a look at what's going on in the industry. And also what I really recommend to my clients is looking at, well, what fishes are you actually blocking? Take those live fishes that you're seeing coming into the organization and that you are blocking, and revert that and send it out as a fish, recreate the template completely, send it out as a fish, and see what would have happened if that went through.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love that. Okay, so a little bit about you, a bit about CYBER1. I suppose that's a good opportunity if anyone's interested in finding out more about them. There is a QR code here if you want to scan that. If you're not brave enough to scan that, I will put a link in the description to them as well, but I can assure you that I've put that QR code together myself, and it's absolutely fine. So Digital Operational Resilience Act came into force, I think, this year or maybe later part of last year, and it actually goes into action January 2025. Talk to me about it, Jessica.
Yeah, so Dora officially comes into act from the 17th of January 2025, so it's just around the corner. So what Dora is, it's a Digital Operations and Resiliency Act that the EU is bringing in. So it's creating a comprehensive ICT risk management framework within the EU financial sector. That's what they're aiming for. It establishes technical standards for both financial and third-party providers. So now Dora has the framework, and within that framework, there are 5 pillars, that being risk management, incident management, digital operational resiliency testing, third-party management, information sharing. So essentially what they are wanting to do is to create the financial institutions in a little bubble and make it so safe that if a bad actor would want to come in, it would be blocked. They have everything in place already, and they are testing it regularly to make sure that should something come in, or what they're seeing in the industry, testing it against their defenses, you can say. Because if we think about it, our financial institutions are applicable not only to individuals, but to businesses. If they be breached, it's going to be a massive impact on everyone.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned that this is European regulation.
Yeah.
How, if at all, does that affect financial institutions in the UK and surrounding areas?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So Dora is applicable to all ICT and financial institutions within the European Union, but as well, if you are, for instance, in the UK or in South Africa and you have customers, say, for instance, your financial institution, and you have customers in the EU, Dora applies to you as well. But as well, if you are an ICT provider to a financial institution in the EU, it will also apply to you as well.
That's interesting. And just to give context on why I'm asking this question, my background, I had over 20 years in regulated investment advice here in the UK. And we were regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. And then I held governance, oversight and control functions various functions for over 20 years, but governance functions for over a decade. The regulator always treated us smaller firms differently than he did the bigger firms, the banks. And there was a couple of reasons for that. Different risk completely. And also the banks are the ones that paid 85% of their fees every year. So I suppose they got picked on a little bit more. The question is, how does this work for smaller firms compared to bigger firms? Because it seems quite a sweeping regulation. And I wonder how it's then going to apply to those little financial services companies with like 50 people compared to those with 10,000.
Yeah. So what Dora has come out with, or the regulations, is to say, the fine is 1% of your daily turnover or profits.
Wow.
So whether that's a smaller institution, the fine still applies. You're obviously going to pay less because you earn less. So that's how they're kind of ensuring that no matter what financial institution you are taking it seriously, and that even if a small little financial institution gets breached, that's a lot of individuals and a lot of businesses that will be affected. So whether you're massive or you're small, you're still going to have an impact on so many people. So the regulation needs to be pretty standardized.
I agree with that. I suppose playing devil's advocate as a former small business owner,
Yeah.
whilst I agree with that, when it comes to actually being able to afford to do the remedial work and the actions that are going to be needed compared to a large institution, I can see a few smaller firms struggling to do that. Not that we've got into what those onerous things are yet. I'm sure that we'll do that next.
Yeah. So no, it will be a lot harder, I think, for the smaller institutions to apply it, but that's where, providers like us can come in and step in and do it as a managed service for them. So they don't have to go in and hire their own teams and, control it themselves. They can outsource it, then, but then it comes in as well where we would have to be Dora certified. So, but for us to give out the Dora, we would have to be Dora certified and comply to everything as well.
Got you. And are you already Dora certified, or does that only happen post-January next year?
Yeah, so we have a SOC and we ISO certified and everything already, and there's a lot of overlap there. So yeah, we are working on it, and we will be Dora certified by the time for if we need. But yeah, we do have a lot of regulations being in the cybersecurity space, and we do adhere to all of them.
Okay, it's interesting. You mentioned ISO. How much overlap is there between the two?
Yeah, so there is quite a bit. You have to have all your everything in place. So you have to make sure that if you are going to be breached, that you can then prevent it. It's all of those things are sort of the same. There is a bit of a difference, but the main difference, I think, would be with all your contracts. Dora requires your contracts to state that, your third parties are Dora compliant and all of that. So that's a big thing that clients and institutions have to do at the moment, is rework all those contracts, whereas ISO doesn't require that. But then again, you want to be ISO, you want to be Dora. There's a lot of overlap, but when reporting comes in, it's different institutions, different reporting. So you have to be aware of all those different dates, all the different requirements, and that does become quite tedious.
It sounds like a nightmare to me. That's why you need a partner, right? So you mentioned earlier, I think there were 5 pillars to Dora.
Yeah.
Can we just run through each one of those in a little bit more detail and how it applies to people?
Yeah. So risk management, that's once again looking at your systems, making sure that they're resilient. You're constantly monitoring, looking for anomalies, having your recovery plans in place. We then look at incident management. That's your 24/7 monitoring.
That's your
Incident
SOC,
responses.
I
Yeah,
suppose.
your
Yeah.
SOC.
Okay.
It's, you need to be transparent with the authorities about what you are seeing. Otherwise, you're going to get fined, and they
And is
also
that so? Have they? So they've actually put some meat around the bones of that, then, have they? Because there doesn't seem to be any common ground on the reporting side anywhere around the world at the moment, and people pretend they have, but haven't half the time. What does Dora say about that?
Yeah, so Dora will come out with their specific reporting that they want to know if an incident's at this level, you need to tell them about it. But another thing about Dora as well is they want to share it within all the financial institutions. So for instance, if one bank is seeing something, that they can kind of make all the others aware of it to create, a bit of safety around everyone.
That's a brilliant idea. I mean, you'd have thought they'd have tried collaboration before now, wouldn't you?
Collaboration is great.
Yeah, not between banks historically though, but maybe that'll change now.
So hopefully Dora will help a bit with that. So then we're looking at your digital operations resiliency testing, which is the third pillar. That is, your pen testing. You've got to do pen testing at the beginning, throughout, and, constantly. I think if I remember correctly, it's every 6 months.
So does this then lead us into, you see, I wanted to be a penetration tester until I realized how much reporting was involved in the job, and then I went completely off it. Plus I wasn't clever enough to do the exams. I've always had concerns around that snapshot in time with a penetration test, though. It sounds like they're moving it from potentially annually to biannually, twice a year. Do you see much of a demand for sort of continuous testing in the market at the moment? Do you think that's the way we're going to go forward? I know I'm going off on a tangent a bit, but if they're now increasing from 1 to 2, it makes you wonder how many snapshots are enough, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I personally would recommend, get a continuous monitoring of an attack surface, just so you constantly are aware. And if anything changes, your 24/7 will pick it up. You can constantly monitor it. You're way more secure than if you're doing a pen test, even once a quarter, because that is just that snapshot at that date and at that time. So I would recommend moving to, the constant monitoring as opposed to the snapshot, but I think that comes with a lot more expenses than
that was going to be my next question,
test.
actually. Yeah.
So once again, you bring it back to where you were speaking about the smaller institutions. They would not be able to afford constant monitoring.
They wouldn't, no. And as a partner, do you look after smaller firms as well as the larger ones, Jessica?
Yeah.
You
do.
We
do.
Okay.
Yeah, we range from small business, medium to your large scale enterprises.
Because I can see a lot of smaller financial institutions needing their handheld on this one. And I expect, as with everything that comes in, a lot of businesses will leave it until the last minute. So you might get a fairly big influx of inquiries over the next couple of months, I would have thought. Have you seen many of your customers preparing for it already? Are there people with it in hand?
Yeah, so what I've heard a lot from in the industry is, they're already on it. The financial institutions, if I'm correct, Dora was announced 2020.
Yeah.
They already started there because they're going to have massive amounts of contracts to redo. They're going to have to do a lot of audits into, the third party. Well, that brings us to the fourth pillar being your third party risk management. Changing those contracts, doing that, getting your 24/7 up to standard, making sure that if they do outsource it, that is up to standard. So there's a lot of work that has to go into this, especially for the larger enterprises. So they would have started, and a lot of them should be DORA compliant by now already. Heading into December, January, it's notoriously slow. So they want to get that all done now already. Your smaller parties will be engaging with vendors, asking questions, getting tenders out, which will put a lot of strain come the end of the year with tech resources, which notoriously it's an industry where we need a lot more resources. So you're going to struggle a bit. I think the smaller entities, if they haven't started by now, but that's not to say it's impossible.
And how is this monitored and enforced? So again, for context, there's a FCA regulated firm in the UK. We used to have to complete what's known as a Gabriel report every 6 months, which basically gave them everything from profit and loss, type of client, type of products, type of advice given. How are Dora going to monitor the firms within the industry to make sure they are compliant?
Yeah, so they actually haven't come out with that, or I haven't seen it yet.
Ah.
But they will. So for instance, you're pen testing every 6 months. They will have to submit that, and there will be a process. For instance, if you see a certain level, alert come out, they'll then have to report that, and there'll be a whole procedure. I'm sure Dora will do some investigations, come onto site. I'm pretty sure they'll also be doing some spot checks, coming in and asking for additional documentation. And
so who actually, so it's the European Union, but which part of the European Union is it that's dealing with Dora? Have they set up a new entity for it, or is it just the EU?
Yeah, so right now we just know it as the EU regulatory are running with it. I'm sure they'll have their own departments below, which is just for Dora. There's a lot that'll go into it and a lot that will need to be analyzed. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do have a whole separate unit for it.
It's probably going to be a learning curve for them over the next year or two while they get everything right in their systems and monitoring in place.
Definitely.
Okay.
We'll see a bit of a shift coming, and maybe even a fifth or a sixth or seventh pillar coming in as they go on.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. Okay, so we've talked about what it is. We've talked about who it applies to, why it's applicable. Have we touched on why it's been implemented yet? I mean, I think you did at the start. We were talking about the need for consistency and stability in the financial services sector. Was there anything else that caused this to come about, or was it what you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, so what the European Union's financial sector has done, or what European Union saw, is that a lot of them are getting ICT contractors in to come in to run their security sectors. So they are a bit worried, about cyber attacks and ensuring that everything is up to regulation. So that is why Dora has been implemented, just to have a little bit more control.
Okay. And is there anything, I know we're probably off topic a little bit, but is there anything similar in the US to this? I don't think there is there?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. If anyone's watching this and they know, please do drop in the chat. I'd be interested.
Please let us know.
Yeah, I think Europe is sort of ahead of the game a little bit on this. Okay, so before we move on to what I think is the last section we were going to talk about, and it is Cybersecurity Awareness Month today, and as you rightly said earlier, security awareness is an element of Dora. So before we move on to looking at how CYBER1 can help and what you've been doing for your clients, talk to me about why it's important to have that security awareness in your organization.
Yeah, of course. So security awareness it's my topic. I love talking about it. So when it comes to cyber attacks, humans are your weakest defense. So we need to train them, we need to encourage them, and we need to just make sure that they can assist your IT team. So what I always say is have a look at empowering your users. So it's not, you clicked on a phishing link and they failed. It's rather shift the narrative and say, well done for identifying it and reporting it. That's great. That's what we want. That's what we need. And if they do click, say, well, this is a learning experience. Now, for next time, not punishment or anything like that. So it's really, really something that I'm passionate about. I love to talk about, and we need to encourage the individuals to, want to do the training and want to do everything. And it's not even just applicable at work, it's at home as well. It's on your Gmail. Don't click on the funky links. Don't do anything like that. Yeah.
So why do you think historically we've been so bad at security awareness training? I mean, the amount of people I see who don't work in the industry, who when you ask them about the awareness training they do, there's like, oh yeah, we did that. It was like 10 minutes, didn't pay any attention, just clicked a few buttons. What can we do to change that, Jessica? And I know the human element is super important in that, but from a scalability point of view, whether it's feasible, especially for bigger organizations, to have a human element going in and reviewing everything. I mean, you tell me, what do you think the answer is? What can we do differently?
Yeah. So what I see has been a change in the industry is that it is now actually being taken seriously. Previously, it was just a tick box. You needed to send out one phishing campaign, one training campaign a month, a quarter. It was just a tick box for, management, IT. It wasn't anything to be focused on. Whereas now they realize the importance and how critical it is that your staff are aware of what they should be doing in order to protect your organization, because you can have all the tech in place, but bad actors will always find a way in. They'll always be trying to, and eventually they will succeed, and it will get into one of your employees' mailboxes. Now, if that happens, they need to know what to look for. It's no longer just bad grammar, funky texts. The mails are becoming a lot more sophisticated. You need to know to hover over links, to double check, to ask yourself, am I expecting this? Is this a reasonable request? Why are they asking? You need to train your staff to start thinking and scrutinizing these emails.
Do you think we need to train them to care first?
A very good point.
I just think it's all very well us providing people with the training, but if they don't really care about the job they're doing, there's a danger there that they're not going to care about anything. And I just see Itza, hey Itza, it's been ages since we've caught up, hope you're well. Her question, how do we avoid users clicking through to get through the training just to check the box? And is that a step back educational piece, or is that a culture piece for the business itself?
Yeah, so it's a bit of both. So from a cultural perspective, I always tell my clients that you need to have a look at your culture, right? It's not just about training, it's about creating a security culture. So you want your staff to feel empowered that by reporting, they are doing something to help your IT team, to help your organization, that they're all little soldiers helping you fight this battle. It's not just, oh, the IT team will have something in the background to stop it. It'll be fine. So that's the one part of it. And then the other part when it comes to training is, once again, you need to have that culture in place where you don't want your employees to just like click through. And also that links back to the human behavior that I was speaking about in my intro, where we'll have a look at, so a lot of us can see how long they spent on the training. So for instance, a 3-minute training, you spent 30 seconds on it. I can see there's something wrong. You didn't engage. So why? Say, for instance, you're in finance. I can go then pull all the finance departments training, see, oh, they all had 30 seconds. Well, why is this?
Yeah.
Do a bit of deep dive. Oh, it's audit section. Okay, maybe let's do finance after audit. We'll give them an in-person training, a 10, 20-minute training, and, we'll just fish them or do 2-minute training sessions for them during the audit period. So what that is going to create is, a little bit more trust between finance and IT. Saying, I realize this is a really bad time for you. I do still need you to be aware of this. So we're going to bring it down a little bit. But afterwards, I'm going to need your cooperation, just to help me out a little bit. And that's also going to feel for finance that they are valued, which helps create the culture. To also go on with this point is, there are some trainings where if you complete it in 30 seconds and it's 2 minutes, it'll tell you to start again. So we are seeing that in the industry and that being put in place. Also blocking, speeding up videos halfway through, stopping and getting you to answer multiple choice questions is also a way to stop that.
Because it's societal, really, isn't it? Our attention spans have gone from reading a book to now, and no disrespect to my beautiful, lovely wife, where I'm now going to make a comment on, I'm not on Facebook. The only social media platform I'm on is LinkedIn. But of an evening, once she's got all the kids to bed and done all the bits she's going to do, she'll sit down and she'll do what I call is doom scrolling, where she sits on her phone and does this for videos. And I think she watches probably 30 seconds, if that, of each one. The point of my rambling statement about my wife's doom scrolling is society's changed, behaviors have changed. With that, us as an industry needs to change, probably how we deliver training. But equally, is there an optimal time that people should learn? So for me, I've got ADHD. So when it comes to optimal time, any short period of time I can focus is good, but I normally limit myself to 15, 20 minutes on a task, and then I'll take a 5-minute or a 2-minute break away and come back and do it again. Again, people say about multitasking. I don't think that's possible. Don't actually think it's a thing, because I think if you multitask, you end up doing not anything very well. I think monotasking for me is the thing, where you just focus on one thing until you've got it done into the next. But how does that relate to the way people learn and the way people kind of take on board this information?
Yeah. So for a lot of my clients, I do recommend max a 2-minute to 5-minute training video if they're doing a video, because you do lose people's attention span. You don't want to be giving 15, 10, 20 minutes. You're going to lose them. They're not going to retain anything. They're just going to have this negative block towards security awareness training. So what I say is, let's do short but meaningful videos, even if that means we create our own content. So we can create that for our clients and we make it short, sweet, and impactful for them. So there's also so many people.
So you do bespoke. So you create bespoke training for your clients and not off-the-shelf training. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, we do. As well, just to that point, is if a client has something happen within their organization that they want to train on, you're not going to find that on all your consoles or different platforms that you use. So that's what they really like to use us for as well. It's also, get the branding, make it feel personalized and not just generic. That's also how we can grab their attention, is that personalization and not just generic content. What we love to do as well is in-person events at the client. So something small. So you can, for instance, have a fishing pond, just like a blow-up pool with fishes in and a fishing rod, go fishing and answer a question. So it'll be different themes. Answer the question right, win a prize, move on, get a free coffee for the department that has the best score.
I love that.
A floating trophy for the individual with the best score. Make it interactive, make people want to come and be a part of it. A lot of people are saying then, well, I don't go to the office, I work remote. Digital escape rooms. There's so many options. It doesn't have to be at the office, but make it fun.
And if you're looking for another option of a digital escape room to sell, I've got a brilliant contact for you. A guy called Daniel Garnham, who's ex City of London Police. He's created an in-person and a digital one, which are absolutely amazing. And that leads me on to just quickly finishing. I'm in London tomorrow with the City of London Police, watching them deliver their Lego game to some board members of a bank, where I've never done this before, so I'm looking forward to it. It's getting them to engage with cyber risks through playing Lego.
So that's an interesting one. I haven't heard of that before.
I've got my favourite one with me. I need to take it. But before we close off, because we've got about 2 or 3 minutes left, I'm just going to bring up the CYBER1 QR code for those brave enough to scan it. For those not, there is a link in the description. But please just tell our audience a little bit about how CYBER1 can help if anyone out there is struggling with Dora or anything else. Yeah.
So if you're helping with or need help with Dora, we have, we can help with seeing where your gaps are, what you need to implement. We have 24/7 monitoring, as we mentioned. We have our own SOC based out of South Africa. So it's the same time zone as what you would here in Europe, UK. So that is very helpful. We also help with pen testing, third-party assessments, security awareness training is what I've mentioned. We do all the customizations. We can run your security awareness plan, make recommendations, come to your office and do some engaging sessions, create custom content. There's a lot we can do, and we are here if you need the help.
Love it. Do you mind if I can find where the tab's gone? Here we go. Do you mind if I drop your LinkedIn profile into the chat? So if anyone wants to connect, is that okay?
Yeah, perfect. Of course. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn as well if anyone wants to talk or chat, ask any questions.
Excellent. Jessica, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing that with me. I've learned lots about Dora. I expect a lot of people out there who are watching are sweating if they haven't done anything yet. If you haven't done anything and you need some help, please do reach out to Jessica and the team at CYBER1. Look forward to seeing you at the next in-person event, Jessica. And for the rest of you, have an absolutely wonderful day. Any words of wisdom before we go, Jessica? Any brilliant advice just to finish off, just to put you on the spot?
Yeah, of course. So my advice would be, make cyber fun. Make it fun for your employees, make it fun for yourselves, and just create an engaging culture, because that in the end is going to help you more than anything else.
Love it. What a soundbite to finish on. Jessica, thank you so much. Everyone else, thank you.
Thanks,
Take care.
everyone.
Have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.